Hello dear students, welcome back. Hope you all are keeping fine. Today we are meeting again to discuss the question answers of lesson number 1 from your book Hornbill. The lesson was The Portrait of a Lady by Khushwant Singh. And in the first part we had discussed the chapter in detail. I hope that you have understood the chapter very well. And in today's video we are going to discuss the textual questions of this chapter. So let's start our discussion. So dear students, at the end of the chapter, under the heading Understanding the Text, number of questions are given in your book, and in today's video we are going to discuss these questions in detail. So the very first question in your book is, mention the 3 phases of the author's relationship with his grandmother before he left the country to study abroad. Before he left the country to study abroad. So these 3 phases you need to discuss in this answer. So the 3 phases of the author's relationship with his grandmother can be divided into 3 headings, you may say. The first one is admiration and friendship. Second is growing distant. And third one is wide gulf. Now these 3 phases came into their life before he had left to study abroad. Now what you can write in the first phase, that is admiration and friendship, that the author admired his grandmother and described her as the winter landscape in the mountains, an expanse of pure white serenity, breathing peace and contentment. So these are the phrases and expression that he has used to describe his grandmother and her beauty. Okay, and they were very good friends. She woke him up in the morning and got him ready for school, and she waited for him while he was in school and then walked him back. So these are the things, these are the points that we have found in the chapter, which clearly describes their close bonding and their good friendship. The next phase was growing distant. Now what you can write in this, that she could not accompany him to school as he went by the school bus. He was now in an English school where they taught science, and she could not understand English and did not believe in science. The fact that they were not taught about God made her unhappy, and Khushwant Singh's learning music in school made her even unhappier, as she felt that it was not meant for gentle folk. So her communication with him deteriorated further, which widened up the gap or distance in between them. Now under the third phase, you may write that when he went to the university, he got a separate room, and even the last link of a shared room was snapped. So the grandmother kept to her spinning wheel, rarely talking to anyone. So this had further widened up the gulf or distance in between them. The interaction between him and the grandmother became minimal, and the grandmother rarely talked to him, and she was satisfied with her praying and feeding the sparrows. So these were the 3 phases in their relationship. Now we shall move on to the next question, and question number 2 is, mention 3 reasons why the author's grandmother was disturbed when he started going to the city school. Now the first and foremost reason which basically made her disturbed was, as we have found in the content, that she was very spiritual and religious lady, and when she came to know that nothing related to scripture or religious thing has been taught to the students in the English school, she became disturbed, and instead of learning scriptures or hymns or religious things, what her grandson was learning in the English school, that he learned English words and Western science, and the law of gravity, the world being round, etc. and etc. So this made her unhappy. Secondly, she did not believe in the things that they taught at the English medium school. According to her, these were the unrealistic things that were taught in the school, like Western science and learning music, etc. So she was baffled by Western science and the way of learning in the English medium school. And thirdly, she was very disturbed about the fact that he was being given music lessons. According to her, music had lewd associations, and it was not meant for gentle folk. So this was the third reason that she was disturbed when she came to know that all these things were taught to her grandson in the new English medium school. Now we shall move on to the third question. The question is, mention 3 ways in which the author's grandmother spent her days after he grew up. Now, after he grew up here stands for when he had become a young boy and he had started going to the university, and later he had went to abroad also for his advanced studies. So you need to mention the 3 ways in which author's grandmother had started spending her days in absence of the author. So as we have found in the content in the chapter that she began to pray almost all the time, and she was resigned to her loneliness and she did not interact much with others. The second way was that she rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. She would continue spinning at her wheel all the time. Most of the time she was spending on her spinning wheel. And then in the afternoon time she would feed the sparrows in her spare time. She had almost no time to interact with the members of her family even. And in the afternoon she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrows. So basically these 3 ways we have found in the chapter in which the author's grandmother had started spending her days. Now the fourth question is, mention the odd way in which the author's grandmother behaved just before she died. Now, just before her death, she forgot to pray for a while, and she collected the women of her neighborhood. She started thumping the drum and sang of the homecoming of warriors. She tired herself and developed fever, and she declared that her end was near. Though the doctor said that she would recover soon, she would be fine soon, but she told her family members that she would not waste any more time in talking to them. And she continued praying and telling her beads till she breathed her last. So what was the odd way in which she had behaved? The odd way was that for the very first time, as we had found in the content, that she was a very spiritual and religious lady. Every time, all the time, she was recalling and she was murmuring her prayers, and she was lost in her inaudible prayers all the time. So this was the day for the very first time in her life that she did not pray. She had left her prayer. So this was the odd way in which she had behaved. Now the next question is the way in which the sparrows expressed their sorrow when the author's grandmother died. So you need to mention the way in which the sparrows expressed their sorrow when they came to know that the grandmother is no more. So it is clearly given in the content that when the grandmother died, thousands of sparrows collected and sat in the courtyard, and there was complete silence. They were not chirping, and when the author's mother threw some bread for them, they took no notice of the bread. They did not eat the breadcrumbs, and they were, fell of grief. They felt the grief at her death and flew away quietly after the cremation. So the breadcrumbs had to be swept away the next day. So this clearly states that the sparrows loved the grandmother deeply. That particular day when the grandmother had died, sparrows did not come to eat the breadcrumbs, but they had come to pay their homage tribute and to show their deep affection and love towards their dead grandmother. And they flew away as a mark of respect. They flew away quietly as a mark of respect. Now, this is all about the understanding the text portion in your book, dear children. Now, in the next part, we shall talk about talking about the text. Now, here also few questions are given, and we shall discuss them in detail in the next part of the video. Till then, goodbye.